Welcome back. If you're wondering which resonators are worth building in Wuthering Waves version 3.5, you're in the right place. In this tier list, we're going to rank the characters based on how well they perform in the current version, talk about what makes them stand out, and help you figure out which ones deserve your time and resources. Now, before we jump in, remember that Wuthering Waves is a game where skill and team building matter just as much as raw character strength. A powerful team isn't just about stacking the highest ranked characters, it's about finding the right synergy and knowing how to play them. So even if your favorite resonator isn't sitting at the very top of the list, don't worry. With the right setup and a bit of practice, they can still put in some serious work. With that out of the way, let's get started. I'm quickly moving on to the video and I'm ranking characters in Wuthering Waves. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Yang Yang, Taoki, Yuhu, and Lumi. Alright, this is where things start getting a little awkward. These characters are not terrible by any means, but they are the kind of resonators that make you think, I wish they were just a little bit better. They all have something useful to offer, yet each one comes with a limitation that keeps them from climbing any higher on the tier list. Let's start with Yang Yang. Since she's the very first free 4-star character everyone gets, chances are you've spent some time using her early on. She offers respectable damage and her aero abilities are great at grouping enemies together, making early combat feel much smoother. The problem is that once your roster starts growing, stronger sub damage per second characters quickly take her place. Many of them not only deal more damage but also provide valuable team-wide damage buffs, making Yang Yang much harder to justify in later content. She's a solid starting companion, but eventually the bench starts calling her name. Next up is Taoki, and honestly, Jinsei gave her a second chance at relevance. She can now function as a sub damage per second character by boosting resonance skill damage while also dealing respectable quick swap damage through her resonance liberation. That sounds great on paper, but her old problems never really disappeared. Her forte circuit and shield scale differently, making her kit feel disconnected instead of working together naturally. If those scaling values were consistent, Taoki could have been an amazing hybrid support and sub damage per scene character. Instead, she feels like a puzzle that is missing one important piece. Then we have Yuhu, who somehow managed to turn supporting your team into a game of chance. She can heal, improve vibration strength, depletion, efficiency, and provide several useful buffs, but most of those bonuses depend on a random system built directly into her kit. You can influence some outcomes, but more often than not, you're rolling the dice and hoping for the effect you actually wanted. To make things even tougher, her outro skill only strengthens the incoming resonator's coordinated attacks. Since only a small number of characters actually rely on coordinated attacks, that buff ends up being far more niche than you'd like. Sometimes Yuhu feels less like a reliable support and more like she's asking the team to trust the process. Finally, there's Lumi. She's another sub damage per second character whose main contribution is amplifying resonance skill damage through her outro skill. Her overall kit is easy to understand, and both her forte circuit and resonance liberation have respectable damage multipliers. The catch is that her basic attacks in both of her light modes don't hit nearly as hard, so her damage noticeably drops whenever she's outside of her 40 circuit window. Keep that gauge full though, and Lumi can absolutely pull her weight. She's one of those characters that feels rewarding when everything lines up, but noticeably weaker whenever the timing falls apart. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Jiangxin, Lingyang, Yinlin, Rover Aero, Aalto, Yuanwu, Chixia, and Baiji. Now we're stepping into the tier where things get a lot more interesting. These resonators are absolutely capable of clearing difficult content, and in the right teams that they can look surprisingly impressive. The catch is that each of them has one or two weaknesses that stop them from competing with the strongest picks in the current meta. They're good, they're reliable, but they always seem to be just one step away from greatness. Let's kick things off with Jiangxin. She's one of the most flexible characters in Wuthering Waves because she can comfortably fill both the main damage per second and sub damage per turn roles. She brings excellent enemy grouping, solid area of effect damage, and can even boost resonance liberation damage through her outro skill. That versatility is definitely useful, but it also ends up being her biggest weakness. Since she tries to do a little bit of everything, specialists eventually outperform her in almost every role. She's the definition of a jack of all trades, master of, well, almost. Lingyang has unfortunately been having a rough time lately. He's still a standard 5-star main damage per center character with a fun playstyle, but the competition around him has become much stronger. Many other 5-star characters now offer significantly better area of effect damage, making them easier picks for most content. On top of that, Lingyang still lacks a dedicated Glacio support that truly complements his kit, so his overall damage output struggles to keep up with the game's stronger damage dealers. Yinlin is still one of the coolest sub-damage per second characters thanks to her ability to buff both resonance liberation damage and electro damage while continuously dealing electro-coordinated attacks even when she's off the field. That off-field pressure has always been one of her biggest strengths because she's contributing damage while someone else is doing the heavy lifting. The problem is that newer multi-wave content exposed one annoying flaw. Applying her marks consistently across multiple enemy waves isn't always reliable, and those inconsistencies have caused her overall value to slip compared to newer options. Speaking of unique kits, Aero Rover is in a pretty unusual situation. Their specialty is applying negative effects to enemies, which sounds fantastic until you realize there are currently very few characters that can fully capitalize on those effects. Because of that limited roster, Aero Rover often feels like they're waiting for future teammates rather than reaching their full potential today. Even so, they already serve as the best support option for one of the strongest aero erosion teams in the game, which means their future looks much brighter than their current placement might suggest. Alto is another solid sub-damage per second option who brings respectable personal damage while increasing the team's aero damage. He's perfectly capable of pulling his own weight, but the competition simply refuses to make things easy for him. Characters like Mortefi provide strong off-field damage with much less effort, allowing the main damage per second to stay on the field longer without sacrificing overall team damage. Alto is good, but being good is sometimes not enough when someone else is doing the same job even more efficiently. Yuanwu follows a similar philosophy by dealing electro-coordinated attacks while remaining off the field. He also has the added utility of reducing an enemy's vibration strength, making it easier to stagger tougher opponents. That sounds fantastic until the enemy decides they don't want to stand still. Since his effects only work inside a limited area, highly mobile bosses can simply walk away and dramatically reduce his effectiveness. It's one of those situations where Yuanwu feels amazing against the right enemy and frustrating against the wrong one. Finally, let's talk about Chixia and Baiji. Chixia is a very mobile damage per second character who shines when fighting groups of enemies and can also handle single target bosses surprisingly well if you're comfortable repositioning and dodging attacks. However, when large groups begin surrounding her, staying alive becomes much more difficult, and one small mistake can quickly snowball into a disaster. Baiji, meanwhile, fills the role of a dedicated healer for players who don't have Shorekeeper or Verena. She offers powerful burst healing through her resonance skill and resonance liberation, while also providing long-lasting healing and attack buffs to the next character entering the field. The limitation is that those buffs only affect the next teammate rather than the entire party, making team rotations feel much less flexible compared to what Verena can provide. Both characters are absolutely capable of doing their jobs, but each asks you to work around a noticeable limitation before showing their full value. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Calcharo, Encore, Rover Spectro, Rover Havoc, Jinsi, Changli, Jeji, Rochia, Buling, Rover Electro, Mortefi, and Danjin. This is the point where the tier list starts getting seriously competitive. Every resonator here is capable of carrying difficult content, and you could easily build an entire account around many of them. The only reason they're sitting in A tier instead of the very top is that someone else simply does their job a little better or fits into the current meta more naturally. Let's begin with Calcharo and Encore. Calcharo remains one of the strongest electro main damage per second characters thanks to his impressive skill and resonance liberation damage, and Yinlin's arrival made him even better by giving him an excellent sub damage per second partner. Encore, meanwhile, is all about one thing, dealing ridiculous fusion damage. Once she enters her Cosmos Rave state, enemies melt incredibly fast. The downside is that Cosmos Rave offers no crowd control protection, so if you get interrupted or take too many hits during those 10 seconds, you'll quickly realize that glass cannons really do live dangerously. Next up are the 3 Rover variants, each bringing something different to the table. Spectro Rovers is incredibly versatile, offering powerful sub-damage per second utility through the time stop effect on the outro skill while still packing a surprisingly strong resonance liberation. Havoc Rover leans much more toward explosive burst damage, especially when entering the Dark Surge state and unleashing empowered basic attacks. Pair that with Dreamless and the burst potential becomes absolutely terrifying against both bosses and groups of enemies. Electro Rover takes a different approach by supporting teams that focus on negative status effects. They provide useful attack and all damage buffs while applying Electro Flare, but the current meta simply doesn't have enough dedicated tools to let Electro Rover truly shine. They feel like a character waiting for future updates to unlock their full potential. Jinxie may not be the newest superstar anymore, but she is still incredibly powerful. Her Resonance skill and Resonance Liberation hit unbelievably hard thanks to their massive multipliers, allowing her to erase enemies before they have much time to react. The only thing holding her back is that newer main damage per second characters have gradually raised the ceiling even higher. Jinxie is still amazing, she's just no longer the unquestioned queen she once was. Changli continues to be one of the most satisfying fusion main damage per second characters to play. Building up her fully stacked 40 circuit and unleashing enormous bursts of fusion damage never gets old, and she even boosts her own attack after using her Resonance Liberation to push those numbers even higher. While her outro skill technically allows her to function as a sub damage per second character, that's honestly selling her short. Keeping Changli on the field is usually the better choice because that's where she truly earns her spot. If your team relies heavily on resonance skill damage, then Zheji deserves plenty of attention. She provides powerful resonance skill amplification alongside Glacio damage bonuses, making her the perfect partner for top-tier damage dealers like Jinxie and Carlotta. Being the best support option for multiple elite teams is never a bad place to be, and that's exactly why Zheji has remained one of the most versatile sub-damage per second characters available. Xiangli Yao is another fantastic main damage per second who rewards players willing to master his playstyle. He slows enemies down while dealing tremendous damage, especially when his Resonance Liberation is fully supported by teammates, weapons, and echoes that enhance it. Unfortunately for him, Augusta entered the scene and immediately became the new benchmark for electro damage. Xiangli Yao is still incredibly strong, but standing next to the newest powerhouse makes his strengths a little easier to overlook. Camellia proves that accessibility doesn't have to mean weakness. She delivers long-reaching Havoc combos with excellent area of effect coverage, and the fact that she has access to a free sub-damage per second teammate makes assembling her team surprisingly simple. Even though newer Havoc characters like Frolova have started pushing the damage ceiling higher, Camellia remains one of the easiest powerful main damage per second characters to build and enjoy. Roxia and Buling both bring valuable utility, just in different ways. Roxia strengthens both basic attack damage and Havoc damage while offering reliable enemy grouping and respectable personal damage, making timed endgame challenges much easier. Her biggest limitation is that she performs best almost exclusively in Havoc-focused teams. Buling, on the other hand, is an excellent 4-star healer who applies Electro Flare, provides his resonance skill amplification, and even helps group enemies together. She won't completely replace premium support characters, but she comes much closer than many players expect. Finally, we have Mortefi and Danjin. Mortefi has remained relevant for a long time because his coordinated fusion attacks continue dealing damage while he's off the field, letting your main damage per second stay active without sacrificing overall team output. His value becomes even higher alongside characters that frequently use heavy attacks, making him an easy recommendation for many team compositions. Danjin, meanwhile, is proof that free-to-play players don't have to settle for mediocre damage. She can produce incredible numbers, but only if you're comfortable managing her health-draining mechanics and surviving dangerous encounters. In the hands of a skilled player, she's an absolute monster, but she definitely demands your full attention every second of the fight. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Verena, Jian, Carlotta, Phoebe, Brant, Cantarella, Zani, Chacona, Cartefia, Lupa, Galbrenna, Chubuyuan, Rebecca, Lucy, and Sanhua. And now we finally reached the top of the mountain. These are the resonators that define the current meta and consistently deliver incredible results. Whether they're carrying teams with massive damage, enabling entirely new strategies, or providing game-changing support, every character in S tier has earned their place. Some may have small weaknesses, but none of them are big enough to stop these units from dominating the toughest content in Wuthering Waves. Let's start with Verena and Jian. Verena continues to prove why she's one of the best support characters in the game. She keeps the entire team healthy, provides valuable buffs, and even contributes extra spectro damage through coordinated attacks while healing whoever is currently on the field. Although she doesn't offer the critical rate and critical damage buffs that Shorekeeper brings, her biggest strength is how little field time she requires. That means your main damage per second can stay on the battlefield much longer, which is often worth far more than another damage buff. Jian, meanwhile, remains one of the most reliable main damage per center characters thanks to his outstanding single target and area of effect damage. His Resonance Liberation also pulls smaller enemies together, giving him excellent crowd control, and the arrival of Whimpering Wastes has only expanded the number of situations where he truly shines. Carlotta and Phoebe both continue to perform at an extremely high level despite the meta shifting around them. Carlotta remains the premier Glacio main damage per second, delivering consistent burst damage through resonance skill-focused gameplay. She pairs beautifully with Jeji, who boosts both resonance skill and Glacio damage. While the lack of new Glacio characters has caused her popularity to dip slightly, she is still an outstanding choice. Phoebe, on the other hand, specializes in Spectro Frazzle teams. She can function as both a main damage per second and a sub damage per second, applying Spectro Frazzle while amplifying ally damage and lowering enemy Spectro resistance. Outside of that niche, she doesn't offer much else, but inside it, she's incredibly valuable. Brant and Cantarella show that flexibility can sometimes be just as important as raw numbers. Brant fits into a wide variety of fusion teams while offering sustain throughout his rotations, making it possible to run certain compositions without a dedicated healer. His split scaling between resonance skill damage and fusion damage buffs prevents him from being the absolute best buffer, and newer fusion main damage per second characters have overtaken him in pure damage. But his all-around utility keeps him comfortably in S tier. Cantarella is equally versatile, bringing healing, sustain, havoc damage amplification, resonance damage amplification, and powerful coordinated attacks. She is absolutely essential for Frolova's Echo skill damage teams and serves as the premium option for mono havoc compositions. Although outside of those teams, she becomes more of a luxury than a necessity. Zani and Chiakona each dominate their own specialties. Zani is still one of the strongest Spectro main damage per second characters, capable of producing enormous damage when built around Spectro Frazzle. The meta has gradually shifted toward tune break strategies, so she isn't quite as dominant as she once was, but she remains one of the strongest damage dealers available. Chiakona has become one of the game's most valuable support characters thanks to her ability to apply Aero Erosion and Spectro Frazzle while simultaneously strengthening allies and weakening enemies. Her release became even more significant once Cartefia arrived, creating one of the strongest Aero combinations currently available. Speaking of Cartefia, she stands near the top of the Aero roster for good reason. She can deal tremendous damage while applying Aero Erosion herself, although having Chiakona on the team allows her to reach an entirely different level of performance. She does demand longer rotations and greater investment than many other characters, so newer players may not immediately experience her full potential. Once properly built, however, Cartefia becomes one of the most devastating main damage per second characters in the entire game. Lupa and Galbrina represent two different kinds of powerhouse fusion characters. Lupa is the ultimate fusion team enabler, taking mono fusion compositions to another level by dramatically increasing their overall damage. The downside is obvious. If your team isn't almost entirely made of fusion resonators, her value drops considerably. Galbrina, meanwhile, delivers excellent fusion damage through a unique mix of echo skill damage and heavy attack damage. Unfortunately, very few teammates can fully support both parts of her kit, leaving her heavily dependent on her signature weapon to unlock her maximum potential. Chuyuan is one of those characters who quietly makes everyone around him stronger. His rotations are incredibly short, allowing him to jump in, hand out multiple echo skill damage buffs, amplify damage through his forte circuit and outro skill, provide additional critical damage, and immediately leave the field. He also contributes respectable personal damage, making him one of the most efficient sub-damage per second characters currently available. Finally, let's wrap things up with Rebecca, Lucy, and Sanhua. Rebecca is an excellent sub-damage per second who boosts heavy attack-focused characters while contributing strong personal damage through her unique dual-gun playstyle. She reaches her highest potential alongside Lucy, thanks to their exclusive hack-shifting mechanic, although outside that partnership she serves as more of a reliable alternative than a true game-changer. Lucy herself is a smooth and efficient main damage per second who specializes in heavy attack damage and a unique hack damage mechanic, offering dependable crowd control and excellent overall performance without demanding expensive team setups. And then there's Sanwa, who continues to be one of the best sub-damage per second characters in Wuthering Waves. Her ability to grant a massive basic attack damage, deepen buff to the next teammate while still dealing respectable damage herself makes her fit into an incredible number of teams. As long as you consistently detonate her ice structures with heavy attacks, Sanhua remains one of the easiest recommendations you can make for almost any account. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Shorekeeper, Frolova, Augusta, Yuno, Chisa, Lainai, Morni, Amieth, Luke Herson, Sigrika, Hiyuki, Denia, Lucilla, and Yang Xuanling. Welcome to the absolute peak of Wuthering Waves. These are the resonators that don't just fit into the meta, they shape it. Every character in S+ tier either defines an entire team archetype, completely transforms how a composition plays, or simply delivers such overwhelming performance that it's difficult to imagine the current game without them. If you're lucky enough to own these characters, you're already playing with some of the strongest tools available. Let's begin with the Queen of Support, Shorekeeper. It's honestly hard to overstate just how valuable she is. She continuously heals the team, grants critical rate and critical damage buffs inside her Resonance Liberation field, amplifies damage, helps recover from knockdowns, and can even prevent teammates from being knocked out. On top of all that, she fits into almost every single team without forcing awkward rotations or special requirements. If someone asked which single character gives the biggest boost to an account, Shorekeeper would probably be the first name that comes to mind. Frolova is a completely different story. She specializes in the rare combination of resonance skill damage and echo skill damage, making her one of the most unique main damage per second characters in the game. Building her isn't exactly cheap, since she benefits enormously from her signature weapon and a properly optimized team. But once everything comes together, the payoff is incredible. She becomes the centerpiece of one of the strongest teams in Wuthering Waves and absolutely dominates multi-wave content like Whimpering Wastes. She asks for commitment, but she rewards it in spectacular fashion. Augusta and Yuno are proof that powerful partnerships can completely redefine the meta. Augusta dishes out enormous heavy attack damage through smooth combinations of heavy attacks and resonance skills, but what truly makes her stand out is her unbelievable ability to stop time for 7 seconds with her Resonance Liberation. Even ability timers and endgame stage timers freeze along with everything else, which is honestly one of the coolest mechanics in the entire game. Despite all that power, she's surprisingly easy to build and works incredibly well with the 4-star character Mortefi, making her much more free-to-play friendly than players might expect. Yuno complements her perfectly by amplifying heavy attack damage, healing teammates, restoring stamina, and contributing impressive personal damage. Together, they form one of the strongest Electro teams the game has ever seen. Chisa and Laine each bring incredible flexibility to team building. Chisa is the universal negative status specialist, increasing maximum status stacks while reducing enemy defense through Havoc Bane and Thread of Bane. Right now, the number of negative status focused teams is still fairly limited, which slightly holds her back, but every new update has the potential to increase her value even further. Laine, meanwhile, feels like she can do almost everything. She provides all damage bonuses, damage amplification, excellent personal damage, and even acts as one of the key drivers for tune break teams. Outside of combat, she's just as impressive, skating across the map at high speed, avoiding enemy detection, and even upgrading the Expedition motorcycle. She's one of those characters that somehow makes both combat and exploration feel better at the same time. Morni takes the support role to another level. Much like Shorekeeper, she keeps the team alive while providing an incredible collection of buffs and utility. She amplifies all damage, speeds up off-tune build-up, increases the damage enemies receive, strengthens team survivability through defense and interruption resistance, and introduces powerful interactions with tune rupture and tune strain mechanics. Pair her with Laine and you unlock one of the newest and strongest playstyles introduced in version 3, built around repeatedly triggering devastating tune breaks. Amieth and Luke Herson represent two of the most explosive main damage per second characters currently available. Amieth can seamlessly switch between Tune Rupture and Fusion Burst compositions depending on her active resonance mode, giving her incredible flexibility while maintaining one of the highest damage ceilings in the game. She even boosts her own damage throughout combat, supports teammates with all damage amplification, and uses her mechanical companion for additional mobility. Luke Herson, meanwhile, is the premier Tune Strain specialist. His airborne combat style demands careful stamina management and precise execution, but if you can consistently perform his aerial combinations, the amount of damage he produces is nothing short of ridiculous. Sigrika and Hiyuki continue raising the standard for damage dealers. Sigrika specializes in echo skill damage teams and rewards investment with some of the highest damage multipliers currently available. She also brings valuable crowd control, making difficult endgame encounters much more manageable. Hiyuki focuses on the unique Glacio Chafe mechanic, applying and consuming stacks herself while delivering incredible burst damage. She also packs crowd control, damage negation, self-buffs, and devastating finishing attacks into a single kit. Even with the current roster, she's already competing with the strongest teams in the game, and future Glacio characters could push her even higher. Dania and Lucilla prove that elite sub-damage per second characters can completely transform an entire composition. Dania excels in both Fusion Burst and Tune Strain teams thanks to her quick rotations, specialized buffs, long-lasting off-field damage, and reliable enemy grouping. She isn't designed to fit everywhere, but inside her preferred teams she performs at an incredibly high level. Lucilla is just as flexible, switching between Glacio Chafe mode and Echo skill mode depending on the team. She applies negative status effects efficiently, strengthens Glacio damage, boosts Echo skill damage, and contributes excellent personal damage without demanding excessive field time. No matter which role she's filling, she consistently ranks among the strongest support options available. Finally, we have Yang Xuanling, a Havoc main damage per second who perfectly demonstrates what modern character design looks like. She scales exceptionally well with heavy attack damage, has enormous damage multipliers, strengthens herself whenever Havoc Bane is active, and even reduces enemy defense without relying on another teammate. She's compatible with multiple top-tier supports like Yuno, Mortefi, and Rebecca, while also enjoying several strong weapon options thanks to using a sword. Simply put, if you're looking for one of the strongest and most flexible damage dealers in Wuthering Waves today, Yang Xuanling absolutely deserves a place at the very top of the conversation. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.